cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. What do these things have in common? They're all cousins, believe it or not. They're also all part of the family of cruciferous vegetables. Now that's a really fancy name. They're called cruciferous because they all put out a flower that makes a cross. That's how they're all related. The other way they're all related, these are some of the most power-packed nutritional foods on the planet. Come on, let me take you where the food comes from. Adam, we call them the cruciferous vegetables, which is a really fancy name, but we're talking about broccoli, we're talking about Brussels sprouts, we're talking about cabbage, we're talking about cauliflower, and people might not immediately see how those things fit together. Now, if you look at a head of cauliflower and you look at a head of broccoli, you're kind of like, yeah, I can understand how they're cousins. I see that, but what makes all these different plants related?
Yeah, well, interesting that all of them being from the brassica family, you know, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, several things that we don't even grow here in North Florida, but they're all similar in structure, all similar plant type. If you look at the plants themselves, a lot of them are similar. A lot of times you can't even tell the difference between a collard field or a broccoli field or a cauliflower field until they start
because
yielding
you
a fruit.
See that same leaf shape, the bush is shaped the same, it's got the outer leaves, and then that fruit is coming up from the interior, from the center.
Correct, so as you can see, we have a lot of plant, and we're essentially harvesting with broccoli and cauliflower, we're essentially truly harvesting the flower out of the plant. We don't harvest the leaves.
So this is the flower.
This is the flower of the plant, that's correct.
Wow. They literally learn something every day, right?
That's right.
In the case, we don't really think of these as East Coast items. When I think about broccoli and things like that, I'm thinking about California. I'm thinking about the West Coast. How can you grow? We're in Palatka, Florida, in the northeastern part of the state. Technically, I think we're in a swamp. Yet I'm standing here holding beautiful, young, small, but still gorgeous broccoli in my hand. How do we do that? How's that possible?
Well, thankfully, over the last 25 to 30 years, there's been a big push for developing varieties that'll work in our climate.
Oh, so, in the East Coast climate?
In the East Coast climate. So as we've grown more and more over the last 20 years, and it's really taken off with the new challenges that they have out west, and freight and food miles and labor availability and freshness and distance.
Especially when you think that probably 80% of the population
is in the East Coast.
Is on the East Coast,
exactly.
And it used to cost $6,000 to $8,000 to load a truck and send it east. I suspect the way things have gone the last couple of years, that's going up,
big time.
And it's never coming down.
Correct.
You're in the hole already if you're paying that West Coast to East Coast freight.
Exactly right. And plus the freshness factor. I mean, we can harvest this today,
sure,
ice it today, and have it at our customers in the morning.
Food miles.
And they're essentially delivering it out to the stores within a day or two.
So you're gonna have that increased shelf life. You're gonna have a better product for the end user, the folks at home who are sitting down to eat it.
Absolutely, and the thing about it is the reality of it is it's the same product.
Right.
So the consumer really can't tell the difference of the broccoli grown here or the broccoli grown out west, other than the fact that what we grow here, obviously on the East Coast, is fresher than what they could get.
But it's a different variety. But for instance, there's something like 42 varieties of Vidalia onions, but you will never be able to pick one up, smell it, taste it, look at it, and see any difference whatsoever. Same case here with West Coast broccoli, East Coast broccoli.
Exact same. No difference. I mean, to the consumer, what's on the shelf or what's on your plate at the restaurant is the same.
So we've seen research take something that was definitely a West Coast item and make it a commodity on the East Coast and make it a cash crop on the East Coast.
Absolutely. And, you know, for us here in Florida, we're lucky we have a really long season. I mean, we're in production for 18 or 20 weeks during the winter.
We're standing here near the end of January, number one,
Yeah.
for the end of January. But number two, to look at broccoli coming out of the ground on January 20th.
Yeah, and we're right in the middle of harvest.
When does your broccoli season start?
So we typically start mid-December, and we'll run all the way through April, even into early May.
So that's a long
season. So like even right now, we're in the middle of harvest, but we're still planting also. So we have overlap where even for a 90-day, 95-day crop, we're still in a period of time where we're both planting and harvesting.
Sure. Gary, it's amazing when you travel as much as I do and you see the different production areas and you come places. They say like attracts like, and I see that. If I go somewhere where they grow a lot of bell peppers, well, almost every farm in that area is growing bell peppers. You go somewhere where they're growing onions, almost every farm in that area is growing onions. Here in Palatka, Florida, it's all the cruciferous vegetables. We see the broccoli, we see the cauliflowers, we see the cabbage, those kind of things. What about Palatka, Florida makes it the headquarters for East Coast broccoli and cruciferous vegetables? Why here?
I think northern Florida is a little bit cooler, and most of that stuff likes a little bit cooler weather. The further south you go, it gets a little warmer, it's a little tougher to grow. You know, so our climate is just better suited for growing broccoli and cauliflower, cabbage.
So it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And y'all do a little corn as well?
We do field corn, you know, for grain feed and different stuff. We also do chip potatoes also.
So, and that's a fascinating side note. People don't even understand. There's a different potato than what you go and have in a steakhouse and what goes into your potato chips.
It is. It's a totally different potato.
They want a very specific size and composition and moisture content.
Yeah.
It's just gonna make that perfect potato chip.
And how it fries up. I mean, a potato that you eat on your table, if you fry that up, generally will turn dark. So this potato, whenever you fry it up, stays nice and white.
And we somehow wound up talking about potato chips when we were actually talking about some of the healthiest vegetables in the world.
Went from the best to the worst.
So yeah, somehow in one conversation we managed to make that leap. But back on the broccoli, is this, I know some crops are hard to grow, some crops are very picky, some take more inputs, and some it almost seems like you just put it in the ground and it does itself. Where do broccoli and cruciferous vegetables fall on that scale?
Yeah, I mean, most of your like cabbage around here is grown from a transplant. We do some broccoli from a transplant, but the most of ours is what we would say is a direct seed.
So this is still a seed instead of a shoot that's going into the ground.
We directly put the seed into the row and water it in and get it to sprout. So it comes from a seed to what you see here.
Is that a mechanical process or is that still something that's done by hand?
No, it's a mechanical process.
So at least you've got that side of it where you've got some of the labor down.
Yes.
But man, when it comes time to get this stuff out of the ground.
Yeah, and the weather controls that. So if it's, you know, extremely warm, broccoli grows really fast, so you have a shorter window to get your harvest done.
How carefully do you have to guard for pests and diseases? Are these, some crops are more naturally hardy and some take a lot of TLC?
They do, and you know, you have to, the weather controls a lot of that. The warmer it is, the more pests that you're gonna have. So you hope for cooler weather, and then that's not near as big of an issue.
And now you've got this December, like for this broccoli, this window is, I think, December into April?
Yeah, we start harvest December 1st and we probably run through the middle of April.
So your growing season is the exact reasons that so many people want to live in Florida.
There you go.
It's those months in there. L&M has got farms in multiple states. Do you have broccoli in other states?
We do. We have broccoli in Georgia as well that we grow in our Moultrie, Georgia location. Here, obviously, we're spread out about 25 miles south of here, about 25 miles north of here, all in this tri-county ag area is considered. We have production here all winter long.
And it just keeps on going, and then it rolls on, and like so many things, it rolls on up the coast as the seasons change and it gets hotter here and warmer there.
Correct.
And that's how we keep it rolling year round.
That's the beauty of it.
It is the magic of it, isn't it? The other part of the magic of it is research has now made this possible to grow crops like this on the East Coast. But the reason people want crops like this grown on the East Coast is because they found out over the years, eat your broccoli, eat your cauliflower, eat your cabbage. These are some of the most powerful disease-fighting vegetables there are.
Correct. And you know, and a lot of things, especially like cabbage, for years and years in the same family of crops, for cabbage for years and years, we were fighting a decline in demand.
Sure.
And now we see year after year growth again because the word's getting out how healthy they are. Collard greens, kale, you know, it's like kale has obviously become popular years ago, but these other things are kind of catching on.
Look, when I was a kid growing up in Georgia, kale was something that folks who were
decorated their plate with.
They were too poor to afford turnip greens. You ate kale, but that's the only time.
Or it was a garnish.
Or it was a garnish. Yeah, I don't
absolutely.
think I actually knew you could eat it until I was grown. So, but we've seen a lot of that, and it's strictly for the health. But we've also discovered new tastes, new flavors, new things. Cabbage, you know, you've mentioned to me, I know that forever, traditionally in farming, if you were growing cabbage, you were shooting for St. Patrick's Day.
Correct.
And you wanted to have all the cabbage you could possibly have for St. Patrick's Day. The rest of the year, maybe you didn't care so much. Has that model shifted?
It has. I honestly, New Year's. New Year's resolutions. And New Year's, eating a green for New Year's, the tradition of that has become really popular with cabbage. We've seen a lot of growth in demand for New Year's now. And I think part of it is, you know, the tradition of eating a green, plus it's the fact of people changing their diets, maybe adding a healthier, you know, more balanced, healthier diet and adding cabbage to the diet or something like that. But New Year's has become really big. Obviously, St. Patty's Day is still huge for us. Here in this area is literally the mecca of St. Patty's Day cabbage production. I mean, that's everything clicks. Production-wise, it's our best window for making a cabbage crop.
Probably the worst time period of your year each year. Personally.
That could be the case, yeah.
I'm sure the wife and kids are kind of like, well, we'll see Daddy again one day.
Yeah.
I've worked very closely with Dr. James A. Bear. He's a renowned researcher, anti-inflammation expert and oncologist at University of South Carolina. And he has kind of explained to me, he knows I love cheeseburgers, you know, and he's kind of explained to me over time, all right, Chip, if you're gonna order the cheeseburger, don't get the fries, get the broccoli. The power of the broccoli is enough to provide some counterbalance to the damage I'm doing with the cheeseburger. That's how powerful this family of vegetables is from a health standpoint.
Absolutely, and like I said, you know, there's more information like that out there available now than ever. I think people are more conscious of it, especially after the last couple of years. I think people are taking a look at their diets. There's a lot more research being done and a lot more, you know, quite frankly, there's just a lot more recipes out there, a lot more, you know, whether it's on the internet or cooking shows, people are using these crops, this family of crops, a lot more in all those cooking shows.
A lot of that has to do, I think, with people coming here from other cultures and bringing their cuisine with them. And as our palates expand, years and years ago, trying to find Mexican food was a challenge. And if you found it, it was like, oh, wow, I'm so excited. Now there's, you know, a taco joint on every corner.
Yeah,
so
I think that's absolutely a big part of it. I think that it is. It's part of more people's, you know, culture, diet, what they're used to eating. And I think that's I think that's probably a little understated about how important that is about what's increased the demand of some of these things.
Well, and some things, whether you like it or not, I happen to like broccoli. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Some of those other things I don't care so much for, but I eat them anyway because it keeps me from having to take a pill maybe down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's, you know, it's the great thing about what we do, especially the crops that we produce, is we like to think about, you know, it's one of the few things that can be said that it's better if you consume more of it, you know?
Right,
that's kind of a nice place. The more you eat,
the better it is.
So that's kind of a nice place to be, that you're dealing with something like that. The more you consume of it, the better off the healthier you are.
Well, and I mean, this, you can literally eat any way you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Including that. How much broccoli is Smith Farms responsible for?
I mean, for our Florida operation, we're growing about 1,100 acres of broccoli.
1,100 acres of broccoli.
Yeah.
And people, it's hard to get the concept of that unless you're standing in this field and looking and seeing just how much broccoli there is in this one field.
Right.
What that is writ large at 1,100 acres.
Yes.
But Smith Farms has other partners and locations.
Yes, we are partnered with another Smith's farm that's actually located up in Maine.
Maine.
And they're growing, I think, 3,500 acres of broccoli.
Something tells me they're not doing it in January, though.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're definitely a summertime. So that's where the partnership works good, because they're a summertime operation and we're the wintertime operation.
That's part of the wonder and the glory of nature, though, is the fact that the same food that's going to grow here in one season is going to grow somewhere else in the next season.
Yes.
And keep that cycle going and keep everybody fed.
And that's the way the cycle works. Traditionally, you know, starting September, that cycle works from the south to the north, you know, as the weather changes.
You know, I grew up on farms and I've been eating broccoli my whole life. Eventually got to like it at some point,
right?
Too. So I had never seen broccoli in the field until about 10 years ago in South Carolina, and it was so fascinating. I actually had to get out, get on my hands and knees and put my face down in the plant to see. People would be amazed to see the way that these cruciferous vegetables, the cabbages that come up, you're kind of like, oh, well, I see where Cabbage Patch Kids came from now.
Right.
I know where they got that idea. And the way the broccoli actually, that's a flower on this plant. And the way that they all come and have these same common, every plant's unique, but these are some of the literal craziest you will ever see in the field.
Yes.
How do you get this thing off of this stalk? How do you harvest a broccoli?
Yeah, generally, which we have crews.
Oh my.
And this is what they call a broccoli, what we call a broccoli knife.
Yeah, that's like the old man in the movie said, now that's a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real deal. So where do you make this cut? Where are you trying to come in?
It depends on if you're cutting a bunch broccoli or a crown broccoli. So if you were cutting a bunch broccoli, you would cut it, you know, with 6 or 8 inches of stalk.
All the way down to here.
If you were cutting it a crown broccoli, then you just cut it about 2 inches of stalk.
Maybe let's cut one of each and see if I do either one of them right. So about here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, now that just goes, you know, that's even softer than when you get it home. Now before I would put that.
Yeah, traditionally they would take, after they'd cut it, and they would just
go ahead and snap those off right there in the field.
Yeah.
And then this is actually a field pack crop, right?
It is.
This is not going back and going down a machine line or anything else. They are packing that fresh in the field.
It is cut and packed in the field.
And it's going to be on the way to somebody very, very quickly.
Shortly,
after that.
yes. So we have to cool it. But on a bunch broccoli, you would put 2 of these together with a rubber band.
I've seen many of those rubber bands.
Yes. Probably could find some out here.
So now this would be the crown.
And that would be the crown.
And then I'm just going to go just like if I'm buying a broccoli crown at the grocer. Look at that. Did I get hired?
Nope. Perfect.
Oh, all right.
Put you to work.
We got a side job. We got a side job. I think I know what's for dinner.
There you go.
Look at that.
Get
What are
some
you
cheese.
gonna eat? It's miraculous driving by, looking at a field like this. You would think maybe you were looking at a patch of weeds. You would never imagine that something like this is hiding inside. The real miracle, how good it all is for us, like most things that grow out here where the food comes from.